right, Culture Development family, we're back. Season 2, this is going to be episode 3. And today we have the top, the best suit maker in the 757 area. I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
It's a lot of pressure. Don't like to use words like best, the one and only. So I am Dapper Luq, custom clothier located in Virginia Beach. For the last 5 years, I've been, kind of curating my craft as a custom suit guy, stylist, designer, and just kind of all around fashion guy. I go New York, Maryland, are my primary kind of markets, and then also here in the Hampton Roads. And hopefully we can take this thing international at some point as well.
Absolutely, man. I've seen you all over my, Instagram feed, Facebook, YouTube, like nonstop. I'm like, this guy is fly.
That's what I appreciate. That is my goal, right?
Right. But it's really cool to to see the way you put everything together, man. Carry yourself. It's inspiring to me. Right. I love this suit thing. I've gotten into it recently. It's been a couple years to where I'm really starting to figure it out now. And I wanted to really sit down with you guys. I think suits in fashion isn't just about wearing clothes.
Correct.
It's so much more that come to it. Like,
absolutely.
Like I said, inspiration, just even seeing the way you feel when you're dressed up and you're dapper. It's a big deal. It really makes you carry yourself a certain way.
Absolutely. One of my big client bases is proms, right? And I'll see these young men, they'll come in jeans, sweats, right? And they'll kind of be sagging a little bit, things like that. But the moment you put on a custom-made suit or a custom-made tuxedo, it's fitting properly, they stand a little bit taller, and they just kind of have a little more confidence because of the way it makes them feel. For me, this has kind of been a journey, right? You said you're just getting into it. Me, I'm 45 years old, right? I did not have my first custom suit until I was about 38, right? So, if it's a younger guy, you're like, man, I need to be, you don't need to be wearing custom suits, from the beginning. I don't think. But if you are able to, definitely. But for me, it was, polo shirts, khakis, V-neck sweaters was kind of like, my teens. Sean John sweatsuits, you got the guys now, they're in these Nike Techs, right? Back and when I was 20, they didn't have a Nike Tech, they had a Sean John, the velvet, sweatsuits. I kind of got into blazers in my 30s, right? And then, as well as my mid 30s was like full suits. But like I say, my very first custom suit I got at 38, and I didn't get them consistently until I was 40. So I'm now 45. And, again, it's an evolution, to be able to get to that process.
No, absolutely. And it's the way you wear a suit actually tells a story.
Absolutely.
Like you can tell when somebody's like, oh, that person just has a suit on, or like, oh, that person wears a suit. So let's go back to young Luq.
Okay.
All right. What's your origin story? Where did you start at?
So born and raised in Baltimore.
Okay.
Went to school, Dunbar High School, Baltimore City. And it's funny, when I was in high school, this was the time of Major Damage, Cross Colors, Guess jeans. Like I never was a real big jean guy, right? I liked khakis. I liked Gap. I liked Gant. I liked Abercrombie and Fitch. So it was kind of funny, me being a guy from the city of Baltimore, but everyone kind of thought I was from Baltimore County, which was like more, suburban, right? And they thought that, oh, this guy's a preppy kid. And it wasn't necessarily that I was preppy. I just did not want to look like everybody else, right? I didn't, I couldn't afford, the expensive jeans, like the polos and the Guess. I couldn't afford it. So I'm like, if I can't afford those things, I'm not even going to, get a lower quality jean. I'll just go into my lane, which at that time was khakis and, polo shirts. I was able to wear those and they were kind of in my price range.
So you was always thinking about fashion. It was just kind of what was in your lane at the time.
Correct. So the one thing I will say, I guess I didn't know what fashion was back then, so I can't say that I was like a fashionable guy, right? It was more out of the sense of what can I afford, right? I'm second oldest of 5, so I never wanted to put my mother in a position where she felt as though, she had to get me name brand clothing or things like that. So I been working since I was 12 years old, right? And I knew whatever I was going to get I needed to be able to afford it and it looked good. So I found that I was able to go to those stores with the more preppy look, still feel good, look comfortable. Man, not look everybody else, but still look good, still feel good. And I was, able to kind of create my own lane. And I have friends that also shop there. So again, I wasn't an odd man out. I just happened to have a couple guys that I knew, and that was kind of how we got our base of, okay, we're not dressing like everybody else, but at the same time, we're not dressing left field. You know what I'm saying? If that makes any sense.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I was kind of thinking about that earlier. It was like, I remember when I was younger, if I had to get dressed up, for me it was just anything with a collar on it. It was like that was like getting dressed up. So even if it was like a pair of jeans and a collar shirt, you felt like you were doing something. And then very seldom was I in any type of suit or anything.
Yeah, me neither. I'm like, I didn't grow up in the church and that, so I never. I may have owned a suit as a child, like literally 7, 8-year-old me, but teenage me and even 20-year-old me did not own any suits, right? And when I went to my prom, I rented a tuxedo. I went to like 2 or 3 proms, and every single one I rented. I wasn't buying custom. I have clients now that they go to their prom and they're in a custom tuxedo, they're in a custom suit. I was not that way in high school. I rented, I picked them up the day of, I dropped them off the next day. And again, I didn't really get into the suits per se until it was later on. But for me, I like the way suits kind of, you're able to really bring out your personality, in my opinion, in a suit, right? If you buy a suit off the rack and you just put it on, that's not really you, right? Like the pocket square, the lapel pin, the ties you choose, the bracelets, the watches, all that really brings the look together. And even to the point that you just said, like suits, most people don't care what the name of the suit you're wearing. It's more, how does the suit fit you? And that's how you can tell a person is a suit person, because it's going to fit them properly. And okay, this person took time to make sure it fits them properly, whether it be through tailoring, whether it be through customization, but they're wearing that suit properly because it fits them properly. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. No, that makes sense. And that's where I messed up when I first started trying to get into the suits, because I was just going to a place like, all right, this fits, and you put it on, and then I didn't realize like, oh, I need to get this tailored.
Tailor, yeah, correct.
Everything to me. But it would just be like, all right, 44 regular, like that'll fit you. Put it on, and then I look back at old pictures, and I'm like, oh man, I didn't know what I was doing. That was a big suit, And then as I'm getting there, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm getting. And it's not really about the brand. So you said it's more about, does it fit me?
Fit you properly.
So like I found different brands that have, like a slim fit look, but I'll still get them, tailored to me if I need to, and stuff like that. A lot of the newer jackets, like just the blazer, like kind of like the one I have on, it's a Murano blazer, but they have them to where if you find your right fit, just to throw over something or throw with a t-shirt or something like that casual, it's a nice look. But when you want that, like that real dapper look with the the vest and everything like that, you got to get it like really down down pat. And I want to definitely get into some suit knowledge as we go on too.
Absolutely.
As we go on. So all right, so all right, back to young you. All right. Did it make you feel a different way when you dressed? Did you stand out a little bit different?
Oh, you definitely, yeah, we definitely stood out. But again, I was comfortable enough that I was able to do that and not feel out of place. And again, I think my guys, Sean and Kevin, who are really good friends even to this day, we kind of understood, we're not like everybody else. But again, we're not so far removed that we think we're better than, right? And at the same time, right, we still from Baltimore. Like, we can still throw hands. We can do everything else that everybody else in Baltimore can do, So, the look I felt was not necessary to define me. I didn't need to be dressed like everybody else to know where I'm from and what I represent.
Right. No, that definitely makes sense. And the reason I said it, I had a young man about a week ago asked me, how does he get the confidence to dress like that? And I was like, that's an interesting question, because when you walk in a room, or even when you walking around, on a Monday or Wednesday, and you're like in a nice suit, people around you kind of, stop and be
Absolutely.
like,
There you go.
you look nice, but it's almost like you have to be confident in it.
Correct.
You can't
Correct.
just wear it. So my advice to the young man, I was like, you first you have to find confidence in yourself,
Mm-hmm.
for one, and then you'll feel that like you deserve this,
I think
the dress.
you also need to be very self-aware,
Mhm.
right? Like you just said, I know if I walk into an average store meeting, most folks are not going to be as dressed as I am. I'm aware of that going into the room. So I'm also aware that they're probably going to, make a comment or they may say something. It literally, a good friend of mine ran the Richmond Marathon a couple weeks ago, and I went up to Richmond and I had on not even a suit, but I had an overcoat that was really nice, and I had a scarf on. And just walking through the hotel lobby, like this gentleman had his family. He was like, "Man, I really like that jacket, right?" And it's a jacket I throw on all the time. I got the jacket from the thrift store, right? But nonetheless, it fits me very well, and I'm a tall guy, and I think, you just have to be aware that people are going to notice you if you look a certain way. And that's okay, right? You've got to be confident in the look and know that it fits right, know you're doing it right. And for me, I kind of like those moments because it gives me opportunity to give out a business card or even
Right,
start a
right.
conversation that, hey, this is what I do. And, to that young man, I would say, where do you envision yourself as a career or even like as work, right? And you should begin to dress that way so that when you're in that place, it's not awkward. You're confident, you're comfortable, right? And you have to work up to that. Again, as I was saying before, you know, 19-year-old me wasn't wearing suits, 20-year-old me wasn't wearing suits, but 40-year-old me, this is what I do, most of the time, right? You saw me out at a bar. Most folks in that place did not have suits on,
Mhm.
but I had a suit on because I know who I am and I know what I bring to the table and how I want to show up and arrive. So I'm confident in doing that.
No, absolutely, and that's where it came for me. Is I was like, wherever I go, I don't want to miss an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've learned, like whether it's wearing a suit or just being dressed well in general, it gives you opportunities a lot of times. You'd
Absolutely.
be surprised. I mean, people would just be like, "Sir, can I just ask you, like, who, what do you do, or what is?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, hi.
Mm-hmm.
I also, here you go,
Absolutely.
and
Yep.
be able
Yep.
to have this conversation, and that first impression is like it really matters, right?
Absolutely.
And I love the confidence that the suit gives you, and again, the position it puts you in to start opening up doors for you. And um, a couple episodes ago, I talked about to pull up your pants, right, to the young kids, and I was like, I don't need y'all all to be walking around in three piece suits.
Correct.
However, you won't even act the same when you got on this suit opposed to when your pants sag and everything. I don't want to mess this up. I'm not acting a fool. You're going to sit down a certain way. You want to say yes, ma'am, yes, sir. It's because you're presenting yourself well. You want
Mm-hmm.
playing football back in the day used to say you look good, you play good,
Absolutely.
and you cared about your uniform, and want to put a little extra sock on or something to kind of have a little style, but it made you a little more confident to go out there and play the sport. But
Absolutely.
if you felt sloppy out on the field and you felt
You
like
you
your
played as
uniform,
such. Yes.
that's
Absolutely.
how it goes. So yeah, I love the way there's this new thing. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a trend talking about the young kids in the quarter zip.
Mm-hmm. And the matcha,
Yeah,
quarter zip and matcha.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take? Like how you
I like it. I personally am not a part of the quarter zip generation. I think I'm a little bit older than most of the guys wearing the quarter zip, but I like the transition, right? Again, I feel like, if you're a 20-year-old man and you're dressing the same way you're dressing as a teenager, you haven't really evolved yet. And to that point, right? If you're in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, like you should not be dressing the same way decade after decade, right? Not to say that everyone has to put on a suit, not to say that everyone has to be, quote unquote dapper, but again, I think it's okay to even explore other ways of dressing, right? And other ways of, expressing how you are as a person, as a professional in your clothing. And the quarter zip is great. It's a great layering look, right? You can't really wear it in the summertime, but it's
right?
good now. We're getting into the colder month. But yeah, I really like it. I like the guys. I like the inspiration, and I like the the transition, because previously we would have gone from like a Nike Tech, to Fila sweatsuit or Reebok sweatsuit. We're still in sweatsuits, right? But to completely take the sweatsuit off, put a pair of khakis or trousers on, a nice button up in that quarter zip. I love it. Absolutely. I
I,
I,
I
I
do
would
too.
encourage those guys. Absolutely.
I do too. That's why when I start seeing all the memes or people doing the little reels, I was like, that's what I'm talking about, because it really do show these young guys too, like the way you dress. You feel different. Like
Absolutely.
you're going to be associated with different things.
And not only that, I just feel like, when it comes to dress, don't allow people to put you in a box of what you can and you cannot wear, right? You're young, you're African American, you have to wear Nikes or you have to do this. Says who? Who makes these rules, right? A young man can still be just as fly in a quarter zip, just as fly in a V-neck, just as fly in a cardigan. Like, you don't need these clothing brands or, what's trendy to be cool. You know what I'm saying? And to your earlier point, right, as a young man, I think the easiest way to begin to get that confidence is in how you dress and the maturity level. And I think the positivity that's coming from the internet and everybody from these, kind of thing, I think the more will dress like that. So
I agree. I agree, and that's why I say I love to see it, because for a minute it was for a minute it became like hip hop streetwear has to be our culture only.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, man. I'll go back to grandma's house and see the picture of her as a kid, and like my grandpa and everybody, all her brothers and sisters. I'm like, they all was like dressed up.
Mm-hmm.
You see the little 7-year-olds, they got like
They had suits on.
suits on, and I was like, that was an era where they respect how they went outside, and how they presented themselves and everything. And for a minute, I think it kind of got away from it, and I think it was just, from TV and everything started going to LA, and, the different clothing became associated with the culture.
Yeah, I mean, I think two things happen, right? Also, a lot of people associate suits with like church, going
Hmm.
to church, or very formal events, right? Most folks, and this is, rightfully so, don't walk around every day in a suit. But I agree, like for holidays, like, Easter, Thanksgiving, you don't necessarily have to put a suit on, but at least be a little bit dressed up, present yourself around the family and everybody. And like you say, it's a memorable moment. Folks are taking videos, folks are taking pictures. So you want to look your best, I think, when you're in those moments and you're creating those memories. So absolutely.
Yeah, and kids, they remember that. They always remember the uncle that they like. Oh, he always looks nice, and he's gonna come. The family are looking to see what you're
I'm,
gonna
I'm
wear.
that uncle in my family.
Yeah, yeah. I'm too. I'm the cousin that's gonna like pull it. Like, oh, I know they're gonna come fly this year.
Yeah,
Whether
yeah.
it's a suit or it's just wearing something, presentable, something nice. You can tell that we took our time to put something together
Absolutely.
before we just left out the house.
And one thing I will say, right, as you're kind of building what I consider your wardrobe and the things that you're going to put together, you should try to purchase things that can go with multiple things, right? Like, you don't want to get a shirt that can only be worn with just one pair of pants, or get an overcoat that can only be worn. Like, I like overcoats because I can throw it on top of like a lot of different looks. Ties, pocket squares, they can be worn with different things. Watches, right? They're not like outfit specific, right? I see a lot of guys and they have a certain shoe that they're going away with this certain shirt, right? Then you become a victim or even a slave to that style, right? And it's not, in my opinion, it's more the name brand or the label than you actually having style. If you truly have style, the name brand, the labels don't matter, right? You're able to dress, look, and present yourself well, and people won't even know what you're wearing. You know what I'm saying? As far as like a label or a brand.
No, that makes a lot of sense too. Is again, people think you have to have a big LV symbol everywhere, and
Correct.
I'm like, no. If you can rock that jacket, the right way, and it fits you right, it got the right style pants to match it, something like that. Everything fits is clean. It doesn't have to have 300 Fendi,
Correct, correct.
stickers
You
on
know,
it.
shout out to Dapper Dan. You know, he got that kind of trend going in the 80s where, you were, labels and brands. And, I think it was a nice era. First of all, I couldn't afford those brands. So I'm not going to, break my wallet just to say that I'm wearing these labels when I can dress comfortably, look good, and walk in any space with anybody else. I don't have to spend that money, right? Those that do, shout out to you, right? That's not for me. But, I can tell you right now, right? You go into a room with two individuals, right? A guy who has a really well fitted suit and a guy that has, just a bunch of labels and is ill fitting. They're going to look at the guy with the suit every single time.
Every time.
You know what I'm saying? They're going to give him more attention because for you, you're dependent on that label to give you notice, right? That person took time. And the one thing I say, whenever you put on anything, right, it should look effortless, right? Like it may take you hours to put it together. It may take you a day or two to try it on and make sure it's good. But when you wear it, when you present yourself to the world, it should look effortless, right? To me. And that's how I like to present myself. No matter, because again, like, there's been times where I'm like, I need to try this hat on with, or I need to put them glasses on, but I may take something off, put it back on. But when I present myself to the world, hey, this is me.
No, see, that's the game right there. That's game. You got to look effortless.
It has to look effortless.
Yeah, you can't be all stressed out in the suit. Look
Correct.
like you don't know how to wear it.
Like you can't sit down, or it's too tight, and every time you stand up, your pants, are too tight, or that and you should be comfortable. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And now, one thing I was learning with the suits is the etiquette of of how to wear it.
Okay, absolutely.
Like sitting down and standing up and things like that. What is the proper thing to do when you sit down?
I usually unbutton.
Okay.
Unbutton when you sit down.
Right. And okay, that's
now I will say you have on a double-breasted jacket, right? Most times I don't unbutton my double-breasted when I sit down.
Okay.
Right, but that's again, these are guidelines, they're not rules. Nobody's gonna walk up to you, give you a ticket like, hey, you broke the man law of suits. Like, no, that's not gonna happen, right? But for me, a 2-button, I usually unbutton it when I sit down, right? And like this is a layered look, so I'm not even gonna button it up at all because I want you to see the vest, see the full layered look. But if I did have just the trouser and the blazer on, I would probably have it buttoned up as I'm walking around. And the moment I sit down, just with that one hand, unbutton it and then kind of let it fall down.
Okay, because the etiquette matters.
It does.
Sometimes people look at it, people looking for the subtle things to be like, let's see if you know how to wear it. And you'll see people in certain suits, and you're like, I don't think you're supposed to do it that way. Right? Like they put it on all wrong.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, they there
tell
first.
If it's their first time. Absolutely. Yeah. And for me, what they say, I observe, but I don't judge. I just observe.
Yeah.
Now, if there's something I can, maybe give you a bit of advice, I may do that. Absolutely, right. But I don't ever try to present it in a way that it's kind of condescending or make them seem kind of bad. It's more of like just a little tip for you. Hey, I got a little tip for you. Want to do this, do that, and it'll help you out. Oh, okay. What do you do? And like you said, it's a conversation. What do you do? Oh, I'm a custom suit guy. Here's my business card. So with anything in this world, in this arena, I would like to be one of the first things that come to your mind if you need a suit, a tuxedo, or if someone does, right? So that's why, as to your point earlier about the social media, the YouTube, it's important to be visible because visibility creates relevance in a environment or in a sector, right? If your friend says, hey, I sell real estate, right? But you never see that guy selling houses. You've never seen that guy, in any type of real estate training, never seen him promote anything in real estate. But he's like, yo, I'm going to sell you your next house. By the time it's time to buy a house, he's going to be in the back of your mind because he's never presenting himself as the real estate guy. Same thing with cars, any industry you're in. Like, I just feel as though as much as possible, you should be putting it out there, right? And presenting it and also just learning and being in that environment because, styles change, fabrics change, colors change, seasons change. And you just got to be relevant, no matter what the season is. Because again, just as an example, last night, I had a client who I sold them a suit last December. And I got an email last night from their wife like, hey, he still loves his suits, but he wants some more shirts. right? And I was the first thing that came to mind, and they bought that suit a year ago, right? So again, that's a part of just being relevant, and one of the first things that comes to their mind whenever they're ready to do their next suit, tuxedo, shirt purchase. I want to be that thing that comes to your mind.
That definitely makes sense. And like you said, constantly just advertising and showing yourself, showing your business in some some way, whether it's social media, your business cards, everywhere, whatever. People
Getting on folks' podcasts. I appreciate you
absolutely.
having me on your
Hey
podcast.
man, I appreciate you coming. Like I said, they have the famous. I mean, you everywhere, man.
That what is it? Famous is what do you call it? I can't even think of the word, but like it's depending on who you are, depending.
No,
It's levels to that famousness, but
but I definitely appreciate you taking the time, man. And you know, uh, like I said, when I first seen your Instagram, I said, "Oh, okay, I need to go there. I need to check this out. I got to, I'm very interested. Actually, my wife sent it to me because she knew, like, oh, this you need to go here. Like, you like suits and stuff. So I was like, yeah, man. I seen the cigar night, that you was hosting. I'm like, oh, I'm going. We gonna check this out,
absolutely, I
and
appreciate it.
it's it's been a fun journey doing this podcast, and now that we're bringing people on to do actual interviews, because before it was just a lot of one-on-one, me and my wife talking, another podcast with me and my friend. But now we're saying, okay, we're comfortable, let's go out here and get with the other people in the area that does content or own businesses and stuff, and let's start sharing and networking, with each other, because that's the only way that we all can start getting to the places we want to.
Absolutely.
Right?
And
Yeah.
then in this instance, also kind of cross promote, right? I have an audience, you have an audience. Introducing you to my audience, introducing me to your audience. That's something that kind of also help both of us grow and kind of be relevant as well. So I think that's really important also. And before we got on camera, as I was saying, if you reach out to an individual, and let's say give you a hard no, keep coming back, right? A lot of times, I again don't try to take things personal when it comes to people, because people will have families, they've got businesses, they can be busy. So, I may circle back, or I may, add you to an email list, and then again, when you're ready, I let you reach out. So that's definitely important.
No, absolutely. So going back to younger you, all right.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do prior to the entrepreneur space and owning the business?
Navy, 22 years Navy. So I graduated high school at 17. And while I was 17, I went into boot camp. I had to have my mother sign in order for me to go to the Navy. I took the ASVAB, as a senior. I think I took it as no, I took it as a junior. And the first person to reach out to me was the Marine. It was a Marine sergeant. And I was supposed to meet him at his office. And then a Navy guy, ran into me as I was outside of his office waiting on the Marine guy to show up. And, as, he kind of, as he say, told me, he listened to what he asked me some very specific questions, and he answered it in a way that, definitely made me kind of favor them at that moment. And I guess the rest is history. So I did 22 years Navy. But as I was kind of going through the Navy, my journey, I did know that, there was something else I wanted to do. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. My mother, she was more hustler than entrepreneur, right? But, I just loved the independence that she kind of had with, running her businesses and things that she did, having that. And for me, I don't want to be like a millionaire, billionaire. I don't have those aspirations, right? But I do want to be in my own space and control my own time. As I told you before, like I wanted to be in a position where, you said, hey, let's do the podcast. I just turn off my calendar and I'm ready to go, right? I don't need to check out with my boss or take days off. If there's somewhere I want to go to someone I do, I just turn my calendar off and I can move how I want to move.
No, absolutely. And, that's the position I'm in now. Because I was a police officer for 10 years. And once I was in a position to say, all right, I'm going to go ahead with the entrepreneur thing full time, I just jumped in the pool.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because I always had that vision too, to be like, I don't want to check in with a boss. I don't want to have to do this. I need to be able to say, all right, put it on my calendar or turn it all off today.
Yeah.
You know.
Now I will say this, right? When I was in the military, I had a very specific boss, right? Now as an entrepreneur, I have a bunch of bosses, right? Each one of my clients is my boss in that moment, right? Because I need to make sure that what they want, I see it, I envision it, and I make it come to fruition. So that's another thing, as an entrepreneur, just be aware of. Like you may be trading in one boss for a bunch of bosses, right? But again, if you're doing what you like, if you're doing what you love, it's worth that transition, I think. So
No, absolutely. And that is something that I've learned is that my schedule has kind of gotten a lot busier. Right? So I don't have to be somewhere for 8 hours a day, but I do have to be at a lot of places all over the time. Like, hey, tomorrow you gotta go here. You're meeting with this person. You're trying to set this up. It's like, so my schedule is kind of like, all right, well, it's all over the place now.
Absolutely.
And it's cool. I like it because I can still, I might only have to do one thing for that day.
Correct.
But it's like, yeah, but it's not until 7 at night and you gotta go way out Hampton or something, but you make it work.
Absolutely. And to that point, as a custom, suit maker, right? I'm dealing in East Coast Standard Time, but my manufacturers can be in India, China, right? I may place an order and they may have a question for me over there, and that's our time, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, right? So, I don't have the luxury of, oh, my boss will take care of it. Or somebody, like if my manufacturer need to get a hold of me, if they have a question, I've got to make myself available, right? So again, you're right. I may not be working 8 hours a day, but I need to be available essentially 24 hours a day, right? I need to be in a position where I can answer questions or see what's going on to make sure that the whole, pipeline is operating properly. And so that's again some of those things that you trade in. As an employee, once you clock out, a lot of times, that's it. You're done for the day. You don't have to see anything or worry about anything until you get back in the office the next day. For me, in the office time is very specific. I'm either prepping clothing, I'm seeing a client, I'm fitting a client, right? And that's really the only reason I have to be at the office, right? And I have the beauty. If I want to place an order, I can do that anywhere I have Wi-Fi, right? If I need to talk to my manufacturer, anywhere I have a phone, right, I can talk to them. So again, like my day is my work time is shorter, right? But my availability, right, is much broader than it ever was.
Yeah, absolutely. I went out to lunch with one of my friends the other day, and I felt bad because the whole time my phone was going off, and I'm like, "Look, bro, I'm not trying to," but I'm just walking away. Hey, yeah, man. People got questions about this and that. When can we get together? I want, like, I'm like, hey, all right. I got you right now. I'm getting dinner or getting lunch, whatever. But you have to take the call. You at least gotta take it and say, okay, yeah, we can meet on Tuesday. To discuss this new program. Okay, we meet Tuesday, and I need to get hard times. Like what time Tuesday? Because that was something that I wasn't doing at first. Was being like, hey, let's get together. Okay, cool. We'll
But then
call, and then you just is
neither
over.
side closes the deal, correct?
So now I'm like, I've got to at least answer the phone, and I gotta at least get something on the calendar or schedule a next phone call or something to do something. If not, we just gonna be, all right, yeah, you good for that? All right,
But nothing ever happens.
nothing ever
Absolutely.
happens.
Yep.
Nothing ever happens. So yeah, that free time, it felt a little more free when I was like, I knew I'd get off at 4 o'clock.
Correct. And then they had anything else. Then you're strictly on family. The one thing I do though, is I do try to make myself, intentional when I am with family or if I am with my wife. That time is their time. But yeah, as an entrepreneur, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Like, as an example, we were just in Vegas for the Formula One, and I had folks reaching out to me. It never fails, right? Monday through Wednesday, no phone calls, nothing. I'm on my way Thursday to Vegas, and everyone's like, "Hey, can I come in today? Pick up my suit, or can I come in today?" And I'm like, "I'm in a plane. I'm headed to Vegas. You cannot. Like, I'll be back in the office on Monday, right?" So again, I don't. If I had something that was pressing with a client, I took care of it before I left. or I put a person in a position that could take care of it if I'm not available. But all the other ones that were kind of just like pop up, like, hey, I want to do this, or I had an individual who they came and did a consultation back in like October. And then, literally the week I'm going to Vegas, that's when you like, okay, I want to make a down payment today. Like, okay, well, I'm gonna send you a link, and I'll get it, order placed once I get back in my office, So yeah.
Yeah. Do you have anybody like working with you as well? Kind of like managing, or you pretty much doing most of the bulk of it yourself?
So I used to have two locations, right? I used to have a Virginia Beach location and a Maryland location. And with my Maryland location, I had my brother, my younger brother, working for me. And so he would pretty much run the Baltimore office and I would run the Virginia Beach office. But, in a case where, something needed to be done, he could put orders in for me and do things like that. But for me, I like to do the work, right? I kind of feel like, some people are in this mindset of, if I'm entrepreneur, if I'm the boss, I'm just doing boss stuff, right? Well, me, I actually like the work of talking to a client, designing something, styling it, putting it all together. I like that process. So I don't want to be in a position where I move away from that, right? And I'm appointment based, right? And I'm kind of have a very select clientele. So I'm not looking for those things now. I may later, I don't know, but I know right now I don't want to pull myself away from the day-to-day operations of Dapper Luq. I want to be the guy. Every single person that comes in sees me, right? Every single person that comes in, places an order, sees me. And that's kind of how I want it for now. It may be a point where I'm like, and I'm tired of seeing people. I just want to be oversee and maybe have my sons or a protege or somebody like that's actually doing the day-to-day. But right now I like being the guy that kind of sees everybody.
And that makes sense. And I think the way that you've established your brand at this point is like people probably want to see you.
Correct.
When they go to there. They're like, okay, I want to get fitted by Dapper Luq when I go there. I don't. If I walked in and some regular person was there, it would be like, "Where's the guy that I followed on Instagram?"
Yeah.
So I could see that, and like you said, eventually, especially as the brand builds, it probably speaks for itself. Like people would have people would already be like, this is associated with Dapper Luq, so
Correct.
I'm good with going in.
Yeah, so I would say if I ever got to a position where I am now bringing on people, I would want every person to kind of apprentice under me for a period of time. I don't, you can lay a foundation as far as like, SOP, I think SOP, standard operating procedures, right? You can lay those down, but again, it's not just the action of selling, right? You have to really understand, listen to the client, what they want. And then to that point, a lot of times the client does not know what they want. So you have to have a knowledge base of suits, fabrics, fit, like all those things. Because again, right, 9 times out of 10, when a person comes to me, what they want does not exist, right? I can't just go, oh, listen to what they say, then go pull it off of a rack, right? What they say, I have to jot it down or get the information in a way that I can now send it to my manufacturer. So again, 2 things are happening whenever you see me. We're coming and we're designing something that does not exist, and we're having someone else make it. And then it has to come back in the way that we discussed, right? And then fit that person properly. So that is a process in and of itself that I don't think people really truly understand. As we were talking about earlier with the Dillards, right? A lot of people in Dillards, no shit on Dillard, right? But they want to sell you something that they already have, right? I don't know how many of their guys can sit down with you, hear your thoughts and your ideas, and then create based off of what you told them, right? And if someone comes to work for me, they need to be able to do that. And in order to do that, I would want them to sit underneath for me to see how I do it and the way I do it, and then be able to, I guess, duplicate that for themselves.
Oh, absolutely. So people can't just walk in and start swiping through racks at your shop.
I don't know.
Exactly. So
it doesn't exist.
You're really you're really designing, like you said, you're taking that concept and be like, all right, look, I'm come to you. I want this is my vision. I want to look like Suge Knight on the thing. I call this my Suge Knight jacket. And you start from scratch and you with the measurements, and then go to a middleman, and you pretty much have to tell them the idea from a distance. Yeah, that's a lot of work that people don't realize.
Yeah, it's not a lot of work, but it is a process that I had to put in place, right? It's relationships that you have to have in place, right? Like I have a manufacturer in India, China, Pakistan that I use on a regular basis, right? I had to set up those relationships prior to coming into business, right? Not prior, but at least while I'm in business, right? Those they have to already exist. I have to get fabric books from them. They have to have a system for me to be able to, put the information in, put measurements in, and then again it come out properly. And then we have to have, a payment system in place, right? And we have to have, logistics in place that they can ship it to me. If something happens, I need to ship it back to them. Like all those things need to be put in place prior to you sitting down with people, because again, you sit down with an individual, right, and you have a consultation, they want to know how much it costs, right? You want to make a profit. They want to know when is it going to be in. You have to have, a timeline that makes some sense, right? Folks are going to come to you. They're going to say, hey, I need a suit next week. Now, you as the individual that's in business, you have to make a decision, right? Can I get them the suit in a week? If you can't, don't say that you can, right? Because once they pay you, they want that suit.
The suits and the logistics and everything. Again, you don't think about all that stuff.
You don't, and you shouldn't. As the consumer, you shouldn't think about those, right? And but again, in any field, as an entrepreneur, you need to know the ins and outs, right? And then on top of that, you need to know what you cannot and what you can do, right? I think a term I've heard before is under promise, over deliver, right? Again, if a person needs something in 2 weeks and you know that realistically it takes you 3 weeks, tell the client 3 weeks. Don't. Now, if they say they need it in 3, you can get it in 2, say, okay, we'll get it in 3 and then deliver it in 2, right? But again, like you just have to know what your capabilities are and what your logistics situation is to be able to deliver. And then again, and I will say this also, things will go awry, right? Be upfront with your client, right? The one thing I learned, in the very beginning, things don't get better with time. If something is messed up, it's going to be messed up a week from now. So you might as well just go ahead and get it out the way. Let the client know. Manufacturers run out of fabrics, right? Manufacturers have questions, right? So, there's things that may change your timeline or things that won't be available. But you just got to, like I say, be upfront with the client, or you'll end up, with something that you can't sell because it's custom made for one person and it ain't going to fit them. They don't want it,
Right. No, that's interesting too. If once the custom suit come back and it don't go,
they don't want it, then what do?
You can't repurpose that for a bigger person or something. I mean, it's like
you may be able to resell it, or you may be able to just use it now as a example piece.
Display.
Or, you may be able to use it for like fashion shows. One of the things that I don't do fashion shows as much anymore, but I do a lot of wedding expos. One of my, major client bases is grooms and women that want to wear suits and tuxedos for their weddings. So I kind of, will go to wedding expos. I may do a mannequin or I may be a part of the fashion show. So then we can kind of use those items. And I already have some items that I kind of display for those events as well.
Okay. So let me ask you this question. Do you have any iconic suits from movies that you could think of? What's some iconic,
like movies that I've seen in suits that I like?
That you've seen in suits that you like. I'll go first.
Okay.
Malcolm X, Denzel Washington on Malcolm X. The suit where he was still Detroit Red, and him and Spike Lee came walking across the street. Yeah, I was like, yo, they so fly. I want one of them old school suits like that. So that's one of the iconic suits for me. What you got?
So I can do 2, right?
Okay.
So for me, Harlem Nights, right? I love the way that both, Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor looked in their suits, and it was that, kind of that Gatsby era, right? I
Mm-hmm.
like that, that Harlem Renaissance, 1920s. Like I really like that look. But a interesting movie that I just literally rewatched this movie the other night was Inception, right? Um, Not Leonardo DiCaprio's character, but the other guy, the assistant, the one that used to be on Third Rock from the Sun. The way he wore his suits, they just fit him really well, and he has a very small frame. So sometimes you'll see a smaller gentleman with a small frame. His suits will be baggy, but like his suits just fit really, really well. I don't even know the character's name, but it was, if you remember the movie Inception, you remember this
I
movie?
have seen. Yep.
Okay, so it was
The
Leonardo
dreaming and all.
DiCaprio. Yeah, correct. They were stuck in the dreams, right? But the gentleman that was his assistant that was helping him out with the black hair, just the way his suits fit, I just really liked it. And he was also like layering his looks, and he had a vest that did not match the pants. So again, similar to the look I have on now, but I just liked the way that looked, and I just kind of was a light bulb moment for me in how a suit should look and also how to style it so it's not just pull it off the rack and put it on, right?
I'm gonna have to go back and check that one out.
Yeah,
I
I
haven't seen it
appreciate it.
since it came out.
Yeah, I that's one of my movies I can just put it on and then just like go to sleep or just fall asleep watching because I've already seen it before, so I don't necessarily need. But I just, with the parts that I do see, the ones like I like, that one, Mission Impossible, Fallout. Like I like how that one was. So there's just certain movies I can just watch. And Inception is one of those movies for me. Coming to America, the big
Mm-hmm.
coats. I really like those.
Oh,
That's
Coming
really
to America was
classic,
definitely yeah,
classic.
and
Absolutely,
they was fly too.
absolutely.
The new movie Sinners.
Okay.
I love the way I like that old school look. Like
Mm-hmm.
the way the suits were like it was very masculine.
The one thing I'll say, right, in that era, the early 1900s, and even like the late, the suit used to be like our uniform,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whenever you went out, you had on a suit. You went to the baseball game, you had on a suit. Like it was like the man's outfit. When he was going somewhere and he wanted to present himself, he had on a suit. Now, as a society, we've gone away from that, right? Where you don't have to wear a suit every single day, even though I would if I could, right? But I just, like you said, I like that era when suits were your everyday because you had to do one of two things, right? You had to have multiple suits, right? Or you had to be able to wear your suit in a way that you change it up so it doesn't look like you have the same suit on all the time. And that's where the style came in, right? Change out the pants, add a top hat, add an overcoat, add a vest, change the shirt up, do a different tie. Those were ways that even if you did not have a lot of suits, you could still present yourself differently each time you went out by how you styled your look.
And you had to take care of that.
And you had to take care of it.
You got to make
Absolutely.
sure you ain't
Absolutely.
fooling around and getting the suit all dirty.
Correct. Because you might have something else coming up, and you either go get a whole new suit or you got to change it up somehow.
Yeah, and I like the way they did it in that movie. Is most of the guys had on something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and where they at the juke joint or the church, or even when they just out at the little downtown area.
When he was at the train station, he was there. He presented himself, and all the guys that were getting ready to travel had on suits.
Yeah, and I was like, they did that very well, like showing that era.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, my grandma, she was born in 1920,
Mm.
so she got her old like these old pictures. And I mean, everybody just like suited up and everything. But all the women was dressed nice and everything. And I was like, man, take me back to that era for a little bit. I would love to go and just, go to a juke joint back then and see them just everybody dancing and
Everybody got
whatnot.
their suits on, or got a blazer on, a button up. Yeah. It was a good time, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, that seemed like a really nice era. I'm starting to see that it's almost coming back. Like there's a lot of men um starting to want to like recreate that suit look, whether it's just wearing blazers now over with some jeans and or even button up shirts and everything. It seems to be more accepted again as cool.
Correct.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you said, just looking at my evolution in my 30s, that was more of the way I wore mine. I was not full suits in my 30s. I was blazer and jeans. I remember my brother, he graduated from Army boot camp down in South Carolina. And at the time, my 24-year-old was probably about 2 years old, 2 or 3, was just running around, and I had on this just some regular like blue jeans. I had on a black blazer, right, and I had on a black Baltimore hat. I'll never forget it, right, and that was kind of look. And even then, like people were looking at it like, who is this guy? He got on like a blazer, like, and it was literally just some nice fitted jeans. I don't know. I might have had on some Nike ACG boots with it. You know what I'm saying? I did not have no. I know I didn't have no dress shoes on. I don't know if I had on tennis shoes or what I wore on my feet, but I know I had some blue jeans on. I had a white shirt, you know, just kind of button up. I had a black blazer, and I had a black Baltimore ball cap. And yeah, that was how I showed up to my brother's army graduation.
And then you just start evolving from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. I remember like just looking back at when I first started trying to get fashion forward and switching up to like the grown man look.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it was. I think maybe watching movies or something and seeing the way that the guys in the suits were like, talking, and it was always
How
like
they
the
carried
boss.
themselves.
Yeah, they always carried themselves. I'm like, man, I want to walk into a room like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been maybe about 4 or 5 years where I start trying and trying, and I didn't really know what I was doing for a while, but I thought I was
YouTube
fun.
University. YouTube University is a good one, Or just to that point that you made earlier, just following guys that do it on a regular basis is kind of and that's one of the things that I also like to do. I like to be other people's inspiration. I like to be the one that, gives you the idea of, hey, right? I actually had a client, right? And he's got a suit ordered for me right now, but he follows me on social media, and he said, "Man, he's a DJ, and he's produced. He made a beat for me, right? And he said that he wants, whenever I put my videos out, use his beat. And like to me, I was actually, very in awe that he would think to do that for me. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, he's a producer, he does music, but that he follows me and he's like, man, I really want you to use this beat. And I plan on using the beat. I'm gonna use it. Like the fact that you took the time to make this beat for me, like I'm absolutely gonna use it. So, I got, one of my brands that I ambassador for is Bruno Capella. They're sending me some hats right now that I'm going to style and kind of put some videos to, and I can't wait to use this beat. So yeah, absolutely.
It's pretty cool. And I know when I talked to you before, you also are a brand ambassador for watches.
Yes, Tally and Twine. Most times you see me have on a Tally and Twine. Um, these shoes I have on MS Shoe Designs, Norfolk-based company. Shoes are made in Brazil, but the company is here. This tie is Refined Vanguards out of Hampton. Dapper Luq suit, of course. And yeah, if I can, that's another thing that I really enjoy being able to do is wear clothing that I know personally the owner of the company or the designer of that garment or piece, right? Randy Williams, really good guy. Mike Brown, uh, not Sean, Stacy, not Stacy's. Shannon Dennis, Refined Vanguards, Dapper Luq suit. So being able to speak to who owns them to me is way more important, right? Rolex, an amazing watch. I don't know nobody named Rolex. I don't know the Rolex guy, but they're amazing watches. But I know who created this watch. I know the owner of the company, and I like having that feeling. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
and that's very nice to be able to support each other like that.
Correct, and also do that. Absolutely support guys and their brands because again, me supporting them does not take away from me in any way. And as a matter of fact, it adds to my look. Right? Again, I can take all these different brands, put them on, and then again be able to speak to each person what their vision was, what their goals were, and then how can we all, as a collective, grow together.
Yeah, I love it, man, and I would love to be a part of that and get with you when it's come time to get up with the guys in the suits and
Mm-hmm.
go to the
Mm-hmm.
next wine festival or whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna
So
do it. Yeah. So I'll tell you, Spring Wine Festival season coming in April. So we'll definitely hit you up. In addition to you have the fall wine season. So absolutely.
oh yeah, I definitely want to get in there because sometimes I'll be the only one in the suit. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, where the brothers at with the suits?
Yeah.
So we could walk down the street, right? So my favorite scene ever is from Malcolm X, the movie Malcolm X,
Okay.
right? Spike Lee, when he go to go to the jailhouse.
Police station.
Yep, to the police station. And then he walk out with all them brothers in the suits. And they walking down the street. And everybody just like, what's going on? Like how powerful that scene was. I be standing up every time I watch that. And everybody just, as they're walking, people start hopping in. Like, I want to go with y'all.
Yeah.
But that's probably one of the times where I was like, go get me a suit. Like, where do I go? You know, after seeing that scene, you know, and but yeah, it's just amazing the power in not just the suit, but putting it together, putting it on, in the camaraderie, like you said earlier. It was a uniform at a certain point. Like that's the outfit of the day. That's the uniform of the day.
You know you're gonna have a suit of some kind, right? How do you? And I think also to that point, right? If you're in a room full of suits, right? How do you stand out? Right? That's one thing that I am aware of, right? Like, so as an example, some events that I will go to where I know folks are in suits are like, you know, political events, right? I know if you're going to go support a city councilman or a politician, most of the guys in there are going to have a suit on, but they're not going to have a double-breasted suit on. So I'll come with double-breasted, right? So I know going into a room where people are going to be suits, how do I still stand out? The style of suit you put on, or the color, or the styling of it, right? That's how, even when you're in a room full of suits, you still stand out.
They got mad at Obama for, what was that, a brown suit?
A tan suit.
A tan suit.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
I said, they done did all this for a tan suit?
Because they just want to be in control. But, you know, other folks do and say what they want, and no one bats an eye. But, yeah, Obama did it. You know, he had a tan suit on. Oh, my God.
They made it seem like he walked in there with a shiesty on or something.
Yeah, like a Nike Tech, you know, sweatsuit on. Like,
yeah, man, leave Obama alone, man. Free Obama. But look, I really appreciate you coming out. If you want to, can you, you know, give them your social medias and everything where they can find you at?
Absolutely. Dapper, DAPPERLUQ. Across all my socials. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Facebook. Dapper Luq Collection. I'm not on Twitter, X, none of those. That's very opinion-based. I don't have a lot of opinions that anyone cares about, so I'm not on Twitter. But I am on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. You can find me on those, and all under Dapper Luq, LUQ.
Thank you, man. This has been a pleasure. It's been an honor. We definitely stay in touch and
absolutely
and do a lot more stuff moving forward.
Please do, absolutely. Again, thank you for having me. I appreciate, you know, any invite, you know, and the opportunity. You know, if I have something coming up, I'll definitely let you know and make you be part of it as well. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. Signing out. Thanks for.
Thank you, sir.